So, hi guys, welcome to another episode of Terra Virtua Talks Metaverse. This week, it's all about art, and we've got two really well-established, really credible, really interesting artists who've decided to join us. They're working with Terra Virtua as a platform and have work coming out with us in the near future. So, the great opportunity to get them on and have a chat about some of their previous history, what they're working on now, and what brought them to the NFT space. So we've got Tim Cantor and we've got Nasser Azam. So guys, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
And let's get straight into the questions. So let's start with Tim. You've got an extensive history. Can you tell us a little bit about your work, your art background, and some of the most significant pieces that you've worked on in the past?
I started my first oil painting when I was 5 years old. So I started very early in oils. When I was a teenager in high school, I just knew I was going to be an artist. There was never a question. And luckily it worked out, so far. As far as significant works, that'd be impossible to, pinpoint, put that much importance on one piece. But I definitely have these moments through my life where I have these breakthroughs. So I have certain paintings. Sometimes I keep them. Well, rarely do I keep them, but I want to keep them, I guess, where, I don't know, it might be every year, every 2 or 3 years, but I paint something and I stand back and I'm like, wow, I had this breakthrough and I couldn't predict it. I love when that happens, but I can never predict when it happens. I wish it happened all the time, but.
And Nasser, same question. Can you give us a little bit about your background? Maybe some, significant is probably not the right word.
Right.
That stand out in your mind you've worked on?
Like him, I'm not really a painter that has done some public bronze sculptures. I mean, I tend to work on project type of stuff, both painting and sculpture, although I probably won't be doing sculpture anytime soon because it's quite a painful process. My painting projects over the last few years have been varied and included, I think, the well-known performance painting project, where I painted in zero gravity and Antarctica, where it was really about exploring the impact of extreme environments on creativity, to the official portrait of Malala Yousafzai, the activist who was the youngest person to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Also, my monumental bronze sculptures, I have a number around the UK, including Athena at London City Airport, which I believe is still the tallest permanent public sculpture in the UK.
And Tim, you've worked with a number of, we would say celebrities, and I think you've actually got a piece in the White House, is that right?
I do. The very first painting I ever sold was to the White House. So I was 15 years old. My art teacher in high school, without me knowing, he put me into this contest in California, and I won the contest. And then I had this exhibition, and then a congresswoman came to the show, and she was charged with picking out a piece to go into the permanent collection of the White House. So she picked out a piece that night and it made the press. And from about 15 to 17, I had this crazy, I was still in high school, but I was showing in multiple galleries in San Francisco. And it was really, I wasn't ready for that when I look back. It was all the press that got me into those galleries.
It's, you guys are both such experienced, such incredible artists with such a body of work. It's nice to be able to highlight some of those achievements in this way. So, and just demonstrates how lucky we are to have you. Moving on from some of the previous work. Tim, first up, how did you get into NFTs, and when did you start to choose to explore that as a medium?
Well, it really was, I work with Imagine Dragons, the band. I've worked really close to them. I toured with them. I did their album covers and their stage design, music videos. And so one day I just got a call from Mac Reynolds is the manager of the band. And he said, hey, I want to get you into this with Terra Virtua. He knew you guys. He knew Gary. So I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what an NFT was at that point. I started looking more into it, and I'm like, my first reaction, like I say, was this is not for me at all. I'm not a digital artist. I just, I'm so traditional. I only look at work from, the 16th century and back, basically. That's all I study. And I try and paint. I try and kind of set myself in that mindset where I grind my own oil paints, and I seek out kind of this lifestyle, like I live in a different time. So when I heard NFT, I'm like, wow, that's way out of my realm. But then as I look further, I do a lot of films. I've worked with Imagine Dragons. I do my own film work, like documentaries, and I do a lot of different kind of effects in those films. And they always lead to a point, though. They're specific. There's maybe a documentary about one of my paintings, or we're taking some of my work and it goes to a direction. I worked with a couple other, like BB Rexa. I don't know if you've heard of her, but we did a film where one of my paintings blows up. It's always like a point to it, but I know how to do that, and I love to make these films and do effects, and that's basically it. Like hit me like this is amazing. The NFTs, I can create something based on my original oil painting, then I can animate it. I do a lot of writings for my paintings. They're basically like poetic descriptions of my work. I can have the narration in there, and it's endless. It's kind of like painting from the start. So I don't have a specific intention. I can just be free with it. So I don't know, when I started playing around with it, I got so excited. Yeah, it's kind of like it's meant for me, really, like, because I have that filmmaking knowledge in me, and I've been doing that since I was a kid too. So it really works for me. I can do the effects, I can animate my work. It's endless what I can do. I can do the voiceover, and I can kind of ball it all up into this NFT and create a new work of art based on all the different elements that I do to try and make an experience in the gallery. You come into the gallery, you look at a painting, there's the writing next to the painting. I have the music playing and the voiceovers, but now I can ball it all up into one work of art, an NFT, and it's endless what I can do. I really love it. So
incredible. It's such a convergence of different skills that NFTs kind of unlock.
Yeah, I can assemble it all into one work, and I was never able to do that before. So
brilliant. And that's a similar question for you. When did you choose to explore the medium, and how have you found it so far?
Yeah, so for me, the genesis is actually me exploring mixed media in my art around a decade ago, during and after my Antarctica project, where I painted in the South Pole, or near the South Pole, where I simplified my color palette to the primary colors and started to incorporate mixed media, including photography and film, into my art. And I did a project back in 2016 where I painted on first generation physical iPhones as a celebration of the 10th anniversary of the biggest selling product in history. And at that time, I did a revolving video of a digital artwork, and I thought that would be a great start to my venture into NFTs, even though I didn't really know about NFTs at the time. That was really the genesis for me.
It sounds like you've never been, scared to kind of move forward and embrace the next kind of evolution of art.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been intrigued by disruptive technologies. So, cryptocurrencies as a disruptive technology for the traditional finance system. Similarly, I think, the NFTs are really a disruption to the traditional art model. And I think you have to embrace it, as Tim is doing. And I think that's what's so exciting about the NFT marketplace.
And we touched on this a moment ago, Tim, but you talked about embracing NFTs as a format in your work and mixing kind of multiple mediums into one piece. Can you tell us a little bit more about, that process? Like I say, when I create a painting, I'll do a very rough
concept drawing. So I paint every night of my life when I'm in the studio here, so most of the year I start painting about midnight and I paint till about 6 or 7 in the morning. But when we travel, which is a few months of the year, I'll do these really loose drawings because that's when my mind really gets stimulated with the new ideas. So I'll do these very loose drawings to kind of spark my memory of what I had. And then I'll do more drawings and some loose oil studies. And eventually those evolve into the final painting. So there's a lot of steps building up. So I've got the drawings, I've got a little bit more refined drawings, and then I've got a final, very refined painting. And then in the meantime, there's also a meaning to it all that evolves into a writing. So I kind of do it all together. So I'll be writing at the same time, and that's the thing that's not natural for me, the writing part. I kind of struggle with that sometimes, but eventually, so I almost work harder on the writings than I do the painting. But eventually, so I have the drawings, the writing, the final painting. I work with an actor and a voiceover man who does a lot of my films. Sometimes I'll have him narrate the writings. So I've got all these elements to it. And then I can go into my editing software, my filming software that I work with, and I can piece it all together. And I can so you can watch this entire evolution of a painting come to life from that very first spark of inspiration all the way to the final painting. You can hear the voice describing what the painting means. It's I don't know if that makes sense or not, but when I create a painting, I'll do a very rough concept drawing. So I animate the final painting too. So there's movements and there's different things. I'll take like I said, the first drawings, I'll kind of mesh them in so they grow into that final painting. Other times I'll take the final painting and I'll animate it and kind of make it come to life with movement. I don't know. And it's just kind of endless.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very, very organic, very layered, all goes into the body of one piece of work.
Yeah.
And Nasser, how have you enjoyed the process of creating NFTs?
Yeah, well, hasn't been straightforward, actually. I realized early on that NFTs are not just about listing on the various blockchain platforms, and that it requires a lot of targeted participation and dialogue with the various NFT communities. So hence, I'm very happy to be working with the development team at Terra Virtua and looking forward to really the Metaverse space with them in the future.
And what do you enjoy about working with NFTs, which maybe differ from traditional mediums? Tim was saying, I know that you can create more variety in your work, based on being able to duplicate, for instance.
Well, what I love about the NFTs or enjoy working with NFTs is really the pace at which the ideas and technology is changing. And that itself is really, challenges faced around that and the creative output.
And, you given your background in traditional mediums of painting and sculpture, this is really kind of taking on a new space. Is that been exciting for you?
Yeah, I mean, I really view the NFT market as being really additive to opening up audiences to my physical art. So it's making me think outside the box in terms of how to show your art to new audiences in exciting ways that have not been achievable through the traditional art gallery mediums and so forth up to now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting one for you as well, Tim, because you own a few galleries. So obviously you're used to exhibiting work in a physical space. How's that feeling for you with these new mediums?
I haven't quite figured out, I would love to be able to display them in the gallery on a screen. We haven't done that yet. Well, we at the last exhibition we had in San Diego, we did have a screen up with my NFT on it, and it was looping. And I don't know. I think they're really cool. I would love to come up with a concept to display them in the gallery. Maybe we'll work with you guys on that. So.
Yeah. That would be fantastic. And I think it's, a few people have tried, putting screens up, that kind of thing. But, is it projectors? What's the best way? But I'm sure it's a space that's going to continue to evolve. So Nasser, can you tell us a little bit more about the project that you're working on with Terra Virtua at this time around celebrating the Queen's Jubilee, if I'm correct?
Yeah, so it's the inaugural collaboration with Terra Virtua to launch my series to celebrate Queen Elizabeth's historic 70 years of rule. The NFTs are actually based on a portrait that I've done to celebrate the Queen's 90th birthday a few years back. And then I did another variation of that with an NHS face mark at the start of the pandemic. And that was really to signify her leadership during the early part of the pandemic, and also the heroic role of the UK's National Health Service. So the Platinum Jubilee is really a celebration of her rule with a series of 3-letter face masks that now reflect the end of the pandemic and also her rule over the changes in pop culture, technology, and also the social changes that we've experienced under her rule. So to me, they're very uplifting. And hopefully they reflect some of the positives that we've seen under our 70 years of rule.
Yeah, it's a fantastic piece. I really enjoy it. I think it's great. You have your existing kind of physical painting and then multiple variations, which are, they're all different of the original work in digital form. Is that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really my original concept of the Queen was to really combine the Elizabethan costumes and use a very young Queen, if you like, around about 1952 when she came to the throne, really to signify the longevity of the Queen. So it's really an uplifting, very popish, and hopefully pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, it looks great. And what format did you use to create the painting? Is that a digital piece originally, or was it oil?
Yeah, it's oil on canvas. Yeah, so both the original birthday Queen and the NHS Queen are oil on canvas.
And Tim, your latest collection that's coming to Terra Virtua, I think very, very soon, or it might even be here by the time we broadcast.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that one?
Well, it's called Ballad to the Moon. And it's a painting for my last exhibition. Basically, it's a calmer voice. It's a woman on stage and she's speaking into a microphone, but she's very peaceful, kind of shy and timid, sort of the opposite of everything you see out there right now. And, I'm not a political person at all. I stay completely out of that. But I do notice that the world has gotten a little more, the voices are louder on the airwaves, they're angrier, and so I think this was my little staged painting version of what I wish kind of was out there more, like a calmer voice, a pleasing voice. And so that's why, she's standing on a stage. She's speaking into the microphone. The microphone kind of represents the airwaves. And then it gets kind of out there. There's a deer in the painting, a white deer that's kind of a ghostly, it's just a ghostly image. And the deer kind of represents this, it gets pretty out there, but like the wish for that is everybody kind of wants it, but it's so distant and it's a ghostly wish, basically. So this deer represents that kind of ghostly wish that is out of reach, basically, but it's there. So I don't know. It's a really interesting image. I think it, and I really think it works with the NFTs. And then the poem that I wrote for it that described much better describes than how I just did. That is part of the NFT. So you get this really kind of well acted, narrated version of my poem with it. So when you're looking at it, it makes a little more sense and all the elements are described.
The NFTs have been quite a disruptive movement coming into the art industry, what are your feelings about, NFTs, and should they be embraced? Are they something that we should fear? Are they going to affect established models of creating and distributing art? How do you feel about that?
I don't know. It's a tough question because I'm so independent. I really separated myself from the art world, basically. I have my 2 galleries, so it's hard for me to say on the whole how, if it's going to be disruptive or not. I see it as just an added version. It won't change what I do. I'm always going to be a traditional painter. I've gotten more that way as I've aged. So I seek out the oldest paintbrushes and paints and all these. I just bought frames like 2 days ago. We were in Venice and Florence, and I found some frames from the 16th century and a few from the 17th century. So I buy these really old frames. I know that's not answering your question, but so I don't know. I think it just, the NFTs to me are just a different version of art. And my hope is that they continue to grow, but they're respected based on how much skill and time you can tell someone put into them. You see a lot of people are making NFTs of just like total nonsense. And I think there's just that kind of craze going on. I feel like we've sort of gone over the hump of that though now. And I hope it sticks around as an art form, but there's some kind of a dignity connected to it where you have to put some effort into it and make something skillful and meaningful.
Great answer. And Nasser, how do you feel about NFTs and
anything that's disruptive, as we touched upon earlier, disruptive technologies, I think is got to be good, in linking the traditional art market to the new technologies, and it's also creating a new asset class within the contemporary art market. But I think if we define the contemporary art market as an industry, then it's had a tough time transitioning from modern to the contemporary period. Given art is subjective, it's an industry that's tough to regulate. So I think the NFTs are making the contemporary art market think hard as to how it needs to stay up with a fast-changing world. On the negative side, I think the industry is so fragmented, the art industry is so fragmented, that I worry by the time they catch up, the NFT marketplace would have moved on significantly. So as an example, we've already seen the dynamic nature of the NFT marketplace, where Metaverse has already become the next generation of NFTs, whereas the tech companies like Facebook, Google, etc., can invest billions to develop the next phase. The art market is just not that coordinated and is too fragmented to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Two really good answers there. And I'm actually on to our kind of last question. But Tim, we've got the current project. What are you working on next? It sounds like you've always got something going on. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, it's one of these things that's kind of snowballed with me a little bit, where the first ones were more simple, and they're just getting more and more elaborate, and I'm getting kind of obsessed with it a little too much. But yeah, I've got one in the works right now. I won't go into the details, but when you create a film, you can have a very simple film with one layer on the timeline. You can go up to hundreds of layers, and that's what I'm starting to do. I'm getting up to that point where I'm just doing layer after layer after layer, and I have to stop myself. I have to say, okay, I'm just going to work on this a little bit tonight because I need to paint. But yeah, I know I've got a lot in the works. I don't know how to describe it, but I've kept little files, and each one is kind of a work in process. So. But there's some that I'm really excited about.
And Nasser, it seems like you're in the workshop right now.
Well, actually, I'm in discussions with Terra Virtua right now to incorporate my artwork into a Metaverse space. So that will be more 3D digital or 3D focused versus my first or inaugural project is.
That sounds really exciting. Okay, great, guys. That's all we've got time for, I think. So thank you, Tim, Nasser, so much for joining us. It's been brilliant to kind of share some of your experiences and, enjoy, some of your work so far. And just thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure being on board. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.